In less than 24 hours, one roster spot opened, another player arrived, and Chargers camp delivered a message nobody can ignore. No one is safe when availability, discipline, and fit stop matching this team's ambition. But that swap is only the first jolt. A massive opportunity is emerging on the market. An offensive line gamble is about to face its most unforgiving test, and one quiet signing comes with immediate pressure. If you believe Los Angeles has to attack this season without fear, subscribe to the channel. Every move today carries a consequence, and some of them could change the Chargers' ceiling. Ben Cleveland never even made it to the veterans' report date. On Monday, the Chargers released the veteran guard, ending a stay that had already started making less sense both on and off the field. In February 2025, he was arrested and cited for DUI in Georgia. Cleveland pleaded guilty in November, received a 3-game suspension while he was still with the Ravens, and was placed on a 1-year probation involving his driver's license. Then came another incident. On July 16th, only 12 days before camp, he was stopped for speeding, violating the terms of that probation. You cannot treat that sequence like one isolated detail. Availability is also about responsibility. A player fighting for a spot near the bottom of the roster cannot repeatedly leave the organization managing uncertainty created away from football. The Chargers' decision sends a message about standards, not spectacle. His football margin was already thin, and another off-field problem made his place on this team even harder to defend. There is a straightforward football side to this move too. Cleveland had been a piece connected to the kind of offensive line Greg Roman preferred. Roman is gone, and Mike McDaniel is installing a much more zone-oriented structure where movement, angles, and execution in space carry different weight. Keeping a veteran with a questionable fit simply because he had experience would have clogged a room Los Angeles needs to use to evaluate younger linemen who better match its new direction. I respect how cold and decisive this choice was, not because releasing somebody is worth celebrating, but because serious teams recognize when a relationship no longer offers enough value. Those reps now belong to players who can actually grow inside this system. The first domino fell before the veterans even stepped onto the field. What comes next could shake the entire defense. A proven giant wants a new home, and Los Angeles should not leave that phone sitting untouched. The name is Vita Vea. If Tampa Bay truly opens a trade path, Joe Hortiz needs the price before another contender does. Reports say Vea requested a trade after failed attempts to secure an extension from the Buccaneers. Tampa Bay still controls the process. It can keep him and has no obligation to accept an offer. Even so, that request moves this beyond fantasy trade machine talk and creates a market opportunity worth exploring immediately. The Chargers' interior still carries an uncomfortable question. This group has useful rotational pieces and young players worth developing, but no defender who changes the blocking math before the snap. Vea does. He occupies 2 blockers, closes rushing lanes, compresses the pocket, and frees teammates to attack through less traffic. That is not luxury depth. It is a presence that can reorganize the entire unit. Picture the effect on Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu too. When a quarterback can climb through a clean middle, even great edge pressure loses bite. With Vea crushing that space, the rushers can close the arc knowing the escape route ahead is threatened. The linebackers spend fewer snaps surviving contact from uncovered guards and more time running cleanly to the ball. One addition changes 3 levels: the line, the linebackers, and the coverage behind them. This conversation needs emotion and clear thinking at the same time. The emotion comes from seeing a player like this become unsettled as a roster with January expectations enters camp. The clear thinking comes from Vea entering his final contract year, wanting to discuss his future, and likely costing meaningful trade assets. Los Angeles cannot surrender important draft capital without understanding the commitment on the other side. Responsibility does not mean standing still. It means calling, hearing Tampa's price, and setting firm limits. If the Buccaneers want draft capital, the Chargers must weigh the cost of that pick against the value of a season with a true gravitational force in the middle of the defense. If Tampa prefers a player-based package, Hortiz has to identify where Los Angeles possesses tradable depth without creating a fresh hole. Before any agreement, the front office also needs to know whether there is a realistic path to keep Vea beyond 2026. A rental can work for a team that believes it is extremely close, but the price has to reflect that reality. Pause for a second and feel the size of this opportunity. The Chargers have Justin Herbert, postseason ambition, and defensive stars capable of deciding games. What they lack inside is not glamour. It is the kind of force that survives in January, when opponents test the same weakness until it breaks. Vea would not need to save this defense. His job would be to stop offenses from dictating games through the exact area where Los Angeles still does not have an unquestioned answer. This is the kind of window that separates alert teams from comfortable ones. Tampa Bay may keep him. The asking price may cross every reasonable line. But if Vea is genuinely available, waiting for the market to make the decision would waste the Chargers' position. Call. Put real numbers on the table. Find out how far that door is open. Because the second domino would be bigger than adding a famous name. It would turn a structural concern into a physical advantage and send a direct warning across the AFC. A heavier, more dangerous defense means little if Justin Herbert keeps taking immediate pressure up the middle. Camp opens with Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater returning from injuries. Two recoveries that can raise the protection's floor almost instantly. The anxiety lives between them. After the poor play from Mekhi Becton and Zion Johnson last season, Mike McDaniel's offense must prove its interior answer is more than an attractive design on a whiteboard. Jake Slaughter stands at the center of that gamble. Selected in the second round of the 2026 NFL Draft, he brings the movement skills and power to execute the kind of blocks McDaniel and offensive line coach Butch Barry want. The detail that will not let anybody relax is simple. Slaughter did not play a single snap at guard in college. He is entering the NFL while learning a new position and competing for a job that protects the most important player in this franchise. The transition makes sense in theory. Guards in this system must reach defenders in space, win with angles, and keep their bodies under control while moving. Slaughter showed those athletic traits at center. Camp will demand things a practice without full pads cannot reveal. Anchoring against power, communicating at speed, reacting to interior movement, and recovering when the first contact does not land cleanly. Owasaka and Penning keep this competition open. This is where the gamble stops feeling clever and starts twisting your stomach. The Chargers chose not to chase a more established solution in free agency. They trusted the new staff's vision. Fine, I want coaches with conviction, but conviction has to produce answers when the protection tightens and defensive tackles attack Herbert through the shortest route to the quarterback. August becomes the laboratory, and every padded rep carries the weight of a roster decision. Slaughter does not have to look like a finished veteran immediately. He needs a visible curve, less hesitation, a firmer base, better stunt recognition, and the ability to execute the next block after a mistake. If he takes the job with authority, the pick stops looking risky and starts looking planned. If he remains trapped in a rotation without an owner, the front office must confront the possibility that it bet too heavily on a position switch at the line's most sensitive point. Alt and Slater can stabilize the edges, but no scheme completely erases a breakdown in the middle. Development is the third domino. For this offense to accelerate, Slaughter has to turn physical traits into trust before the season turns uncertainty into pressure on Herbert. While everyone watches the larger battles, Cleveland's roster spot already has a new occupant. The Chargers signed 25-year-old long snapper Peter Bowden, a small headline move that makes immediate sense in camp. Bowden entered the NFL as an undrafted free agent with the Packers out of Wisconsin in 2024. He lasted only a few weeks there, spent time with the Jaguars, and joined the Chargers practice squad late in 2025. Los Angeles brought him back on a 2026 futures deal, released him in May, and has opened the door again. The staff knows his work and wants another look within this competition. Bowden has yet to appear in an NFL regular season game, so his story begins with opportunity, not a guarantee. That is the beautiful cruelty of camp. A disciplinary decision involving a guard changes the composition of the roster and gives a specialist another chance to build a career. A long snapper almost never gets attention when everything works. One bad snap can put him at the center of an entire game. Accuracy, timing, and trust with the holder and punter become the daily resume at that position. I want the Bolt faithful present for this one. Drop a lightning bolt if you value the quiet camp battles that can decide points when nobody expects it. Bowden is not arriving to send an earthquake through the AFC. He is here to prove he belongs. Sometimes the final domino makes no noise at all. It simply keeps everything else from falling apart. Camp opened by speaking through actions. Cleveland is gone because fit and reliability no longer supported his roster spot. Vita Vea represents a chance to put real weight in the heart of the defense. Slaughter enters the test that could protect or expose the new offensive vision. Bowden gets another opportunity at a position where perfection usually goes unnoticed. I feel the urgency because this roster is too close to accept weak points as destiny. Tell me in the comments, what move would raise your confidence in the Chargers? Subscribe to Los Angeles Chargers News today and follow every answer from El Segundo. The season is already demanding choices.